Hey guys, today we're going to do the geography of ancient Egypt. This is a picture of the pyramids. We're going to be learning about the pyramids later in the week. So the essential question is, what impact did geography have on ancient Egyptian civilization? And the big idea is water, fertile soil, and the protected setting of ancient Egypt allowed for that civilization to grow and to flourish. The supporting question is, what impact did the Nile River specifically have on ancient Egyptian civilization? And that's a picture of the Nile River. So, ancient Egypt developed along about a 750-mile stretch of the Nile River, and it is divided into two regions. The southern part of the Nile River is called Upper Egypt, and the northern part of the Nile River Valley is called Lower Egypt. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the reason why it is called that is the river flows from south to north. So upriver is considered Upper Egypt, and downriver is considered Lower Egypt. So the Nile River is the longest river in the world. It's almost 4,000 miles long. And when it flows out into the Mediterranean Sea, it forms this triangular shape, which we call a delta. And the ancient Egyptians thought that looked like a lotus flower. This is what a lotus flower looks like. And as a result, the lotus flower is very popular in ancient Egyptian art. And we're going to see that when we look at some artifacts later on. So, as we said, the Nile River flows from south to north, and that's because of the geography. It starts in the southern part of, in the southern area in present-day Ethiopia, and it is in the highlands. It's mountainous region, so gravity pulls that water downward to the lower lying plains that are in the north. Here's a picture of those mountains. So here's a topographical map so you can see it. And this area here, the darker green and the brown, is the higher elevation. And you can see in present-day Ethiopia is where those headwaters are for the Nile River. So the Nile River winds its way through northward and comes out and empties in the Mediterranean Sea. So from this mountainous area to these lower lying plains. And this is what the mountainous area looks like. So when it pours out into the Mediterranean Sea, it forms this triangular shape or delta, and all the sediment that is flowing with the river northward spreads out and creates this very fertile land. And that's what a delta is where a river flows into another body of water and that sediment settles along the way and creates fertile farmland. So, the gift of the Nile is this fertile soil that the Nile River brings. And it creates this approximately 13-mile wide fertile river valley on either side of the Nile River. Beyond that fertile area is nothing but desert. And along the way, the Nile River has a number of cataracts or waterfalls. The first one that you come to along the river divides Upper and Lower Egypt. And here's a video of it. We're going to take a quick look at it, and you can see what it looks like.
Thieves. The Nile chooses one of its greatest wonders.
Look at how amazing
The
this is.
first cataract.
We're going over the edge here. So you can see and get a sense of how big and spectacular this waterfall is. This is the first cataract.
Its rich waters.
Absolutely beautiful.
Miles.
Okay. So one of the things that we need to take a look at is how that flooding happens. The flooding in Egypt along the Nile River is much more predictable than the flooding along the Tigris and Euphrates River. The floods occur in midsummer in Upper Egypt, or the southern part of Egypt. The flooding then continues and goes north so that it's flooding in Lower Egypt or Northern Egypt in the fall. And all along the way, it's bringing that rich silt that makes the fertile soil. The civilization along the Nile started to develop about 5,000 years ago. And one of the things to think about is if the Egyptians didn't have the Nile River, they would literally have only desert because it rarely rains in Egypt. And that flooding cycle is very predictable, and it's not as destructive as the flooding that occurred with the Tigris and Euphrates River. And again, that rich black soil that the flood waters leave behind is what the ancient Egyptians called the gift of the Nile. And here we can see some pictures of the Nile River and another cataract. And Egyptians celebrate the 3 stages of flooding. So the flooding stage lasts about 4 months, and it's called the inundation. And when you think about inundation, it means sort of to be overwhelmed, to be covered with. So if I inundate you with homework, I am giving you a ton of homework that you need to get done. So think about that. Inundation is when the waters are coming and overwhelming. Once those floodwaters start to recede, then the Egyptians plant and the crops start to grow, and that's called emergence. And think about the plants emerging from the soil. And then the 3rd stage is the harvest, when they're actually collecting the crops that they've harvested. And here's some more pictures of the Nile. Here is inundation, the flooding. And that's where we're going to leave off for today. Tomorrow we're going to look at the other geographic features of ancient Egypt.